Command, Picket 9, we've got unscheduled traffic off the Terran relic.
That relic hasn't spoken in 41 years.
Grand Marshal Ovencade had watched 3 star systems surrender without a single shot fired. He had signed the armistice that ended a species' capacity to fight back. He had never once, in a 40-year career, needed to sit down for any of it. He sat down now. I'm Doug Kowalski, and every Tuesday morning I drive 40 minutes out to an old military bunker to reboot somebody's ancient server. It's the easiest $400 I make all month, and most weeks the hardest part of the job is finding parking. The gig came through a staffing agency after the reorganization. That's what the paperwork called it, the year the sky filled up with ships, and everybody agreed pretty fast that fighting back wasn't going to be a growth industry. I don't ask questions. I check the breaker panel, punch the reset code taped under the desk in handwriting that isn't mine, and listen to the big black tower in the sub-basement hum back to life, like it always does. Then I sign the log sheet, file my invoice, and go get a sandwich. Some weeks I bring my own coffee because the machine down there tastes like it's older than the treaty. Nobody ever told me the tower had a name. Nobody told me it used to have an army. Watch Officer Kale Dresch noticed it first, the way you notice smoke before you notice the fire. Routine telemetry from the Terran relic, that's what the intake report called it, back when somebody in Regency Command decided War Trophy sounded better in a press release than the machine that fought us to a ceasefire. Usually sat flat for weeks at a time. Today, at 0900 local, it produced a burst of outbound traffic on a frequency nobody had used since the surrender. Kale logged it as a diagnostic hiccup, flagged it low priority, and moved on. Outbound to where, though? He filed a request to Regency Command anyway, mostly out of habit. Command's answer came back 9 minutes later. Automated, cheerful, and useless. Ticket received. Estimated review time: 11 business days. Kale stared at it a long moment, then forwarded the raw log straight to Zenitech instead, because 11 business days felt like the wrong number. Dr. Yeneth Soul didn't believe in hiccups. She pulled the packet logs herself, ran them against the Terran cipher library the Regency had spent a decade cracking, and felt her hands go still on the console. The handshake wasn't standard Terran military encoding. It was older than that, a root-level authentication string, the kind you only issue to something you trust completely. The signal wasn't diagnostic chatter. It was a wake-up call. She just couldn't figure out who, exactly, was supposed to wake up. She found out 3 hours later, when the debris field the Regency had spent 41 years cataloging as harmless orbital wreckage, 412 objects, all logged, all inert, all filed under not worth the fuel to tow, started answering. One by one, in that same root-authenticated handshake, they pinged back. Kale pulled the old catalog photos up beside a live feed and set them side by side. The wreckage in the archive images was scorched, tumbling, dead, the kind of thing you fly past without a second look. The wreckage on the live feed had stopped tumbling. It had aligned itself, quietly, into a formation nobody had entered into any Regency database. He pulled a drone in for a closer pass and got a clean shot of a hull plate he recognized from old war footage, polished like it had been waxed that morning. "Send it up," Yeneth said. "All of it. Now." Nothing that's actually debris does that. Grand Marshal Ovencade arrived at the listening station already irritated at being pulled from a dinner, and left it 40 minutes later, without a single irritated thought left in his head, because every one of them had been replaced by a much bigger problem. 412 Terran warships, full designation, Terran Combined Reserve Fleet, a name nobody in the Regency had said out loud since the surrender was signed, were no longer inert. They were running full diagnostics, synchronizing clocks, and waiting. Waiting for what? Oven didn't want to guess yet. He ordered a fleet-wide readiness check of his own ships instead, and got back a number that did nothing to help him sleep. The Regency's entire regional presence, combined, was smaller than what had just woken up. "Tell me this is a training exercise nobody logged," he said. Nobody answered him, which was its own answer. "Sir," Kale said, "the fleet is not powering weapons. It is not moving. It is simply ready." Oven didn't find that reassuring in the slightest. Being ready was the entire problem. He asked, more quietly, who had authorized the wake signal. The answer took Yeneth another 20 minutes to find, and when she found it, she read it aloud twice, because she didn't believe herself the first time. The signal had originated from the maintenance terminal in sublevel 4 of the relic facility, issued under a standing root credential granted the day the Terran Warmind went dormant, 41 years ago, to whichever biological entity performed its next unscheduled physical maintenance in good faith. Not a general, not a president. Whoever showed up and actually took care of it. Oven asked very carefully who that was. Kale already had the personnel file open. Contractor. Independent. Hired 8 months ago through a civilian staffing pool for general facilities upkeep, because, and this line in the onboarding notes made Yennefer laugh once, with no humor in it at all, Terran labor is inexpensive and asks few questions. No security clearance beyond a keycard. No military record. No idea, as far as anyone in the room could tell, that the tower he rebooted every Tuesday was the operational command core of the most powerful fleet Terra had ever built, the one they'd all assumed was surrendered along with everything else. He doesn't even carry a weapon, Kale said quietly. The file says he complained about the parking. The Warmind hadn't surrendered it. It had just been waiting, patiently, for somebody worth giving it to. 41 years of Tuesdays later, it had decided. I noticed the hum was a little louder than usual, so I filed a ticket for the HVAC. Figured the AC was finally dying, it's an old building, and want to get my sandwich like I always do. Turkey, provolone, the good mustard if they've got it, extra pickles if the guy's in a good mood. I didn't check my email again until Thursday. By Thursday, the Kethvar Regency had quietly repositioned its entire regional fleet 2 systems back, officially for routine maintenance, and every diplomatic channel to Earth had gone very, very polite. Somebody from the consulate even sent flowers to my staffing agency. Nobody would tell my supervisor why, and my supervisor didn't ask twice. My coworker Gary asked if I'd finally impressed a client. I told him I hadn't done anything different than usual, and Gary said that tracked, and we left it there, because that's about as deep as break room conversation gets when the coffee's this bad. I still don't know why. I just reboot the tower. Somewhere in Regency High Command, someone finally said out loud what Grand Marshal Ovencade had already accepted, sitting alone in an empty listening station. They hadn't beaten Earth's army 41 years ago. They'd only beaten Earth's patience. The army had just been parked, engine off, waiting for somebody to come check the oil. They'd spent 4 decades renting the losing side's backup generator and calling it a trophy. My invoice for this week says 2 hours, $40, plus 12 in overtime because I had to wait for the beeping to stop before I could lock up. Reason listed in my own handwriting, beeping. My supervisor approved it without a single question, which honestly might be the strangest part of my whole month. Next Tuesday, the pest control guy is scheduled for the facility on the Eastern Hemisphere. Nobody's told him what's under the floor either. Between you and me, I hope somebody gives him a heads up before he reaches for the breaker panel, because I only found out what I was standing on by accident, and I still haven't fully decided how I feel about it. For now, the check clears every month, the mustard's usually good, and the tower hums right on schedule. I'll take it.